what can we do?
Not getting funding from the school.
No coaching.
There's just that aspect missing.
Internal conflict on the team.
Why am I sitting on the bench?
You're not coming back in.
We don't think you're doing this right.
How do you want this to run?
What could have been.
This is your last year.
It's still not going to be easy.
I'm not going to be a bowler forever.
Is competing, is traveling even worth it?
It's your last chance to bowl in college.
Summer of 2009, I was rolling for my lucky strikes. Full of shitty pizza, in a room full of shitty people. Back before I hit the gutter and sat in traffic, bumper to bumper. All my youth in hindsight came up a bit short of the highlight. Now I'm the low life, stuck living part-time on the couch at my mom's watching reruns of Dateline. A quarter life burnout, mentally checked out. The 7-10 split and I'm all worn out. Like golden shoes that I approve, I'm feeling used. Like golden shoes. Had me girl in 2018, said her favorite song was Aberdeen. I guess I should have known then. That was just a weekend. Now the low lights.
Kicking us out.
Yeah, the camera cuts, insane.
Do another mic check. Go ahead and say what your name is.
My name is Ben Gallinson.
So my name is Logan Leeds.
Hi, my name's Jared Martin.
My name is Luke James.
So I'm Luke Forsman. Some of the guys call me Forsman because LJ is the other Luke.
I'm from Queens, New York.
Long Island, New York.
Schaghticoke, New York.
New Lenox, Illinois.
Scottsdale, Arizona.
I'm an environment and sustainability major, minoring in urban and regional studies and climate change.
I am a senior studying biological sciences, and I am pre-med.
I study economics and I'm a senior.
And I'm a master's student studying electrical and computer engineering.
I'm studying electrical computer engineering.
When did you start bowling?
It's been a long time. I started about 12 years ago. Back when I was really young, my dad got me started because my grandfather was really into it.
I bowled in 5th grade with one of my teachers set up like a weekend bowling club where we just went there and threw around a little bit. So like the first competitive bowling is when I came in freshman year.
So first time I actually started bowling was with my mom when I was 9 years old in one of those breakfast leagues with my family. Probably averaged a good 70, wow. With that 8-pound ball.
And what do you like about bowling in general?
I like the mental aspect of it. I've played a lot of other sports that more so rely on the physical game. So soccer, track, stuff like that, where it's more, your individual endurance and capabilities. But for bowling, it's a lot more mental, being consistent in what you do.
Being able to say that I'm able to throw the ball the same way every time, or being able to kind of succeed at doing something like that is really rewarding.
I think the community is the biggest thing. I love being in a league where you can be on a team and have kind of a fun competitive mindset. That you go out there and you try to improve every week, but even if there's a bad week or a bad day, that everybody around you is really good, giving you a really great experience.
I like that it's a sport that really anybody can do. Anyone can pick up bowling no matter where you're from or, how you look or anything like that. And what was that like coming to club the first time?
Definitely intimidating because I kind of dragged one of my friends along, forcing them to be like, all right, I don't know anyone here. Please just come with me. I know you like bowling. So It was fine though. Obviously, you know Ethan graduated a year ago, but you know he's loud, very welcoming, so it's pretty easy to fit in.
I remember I met the first day Logan, who was also a freshman, who was also a high school bowler. So he and I kind of clicked and sort of became friends.
One of the guys met Ned at the first week, actually the day of. He asked me like, "Oh, what are you doing later tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm going bowling." He's like, "Ah, so am I." So met Ned there, and it's been a ride since.
So I took bowling PE class freshman fall, and they said, "Hey, you're pretty good. You should come to club on Tuesday or Thursday." I was like, "Okay," and I showed up, and actually the first person I met was you, Jared, and yeah, you said hello to me. You got me on a lane, you got me set up, and rest is history.
Was there a team who was running it? What was going on?
I think as a group, it was like we saw a potential group of guys who were all really good at bowling or all really interested in bowling. So it was like easy to say, oh, well, these guys all want to compete. So let's bring them together and figure this out,
I remember to get on the team was similar to high school where there was kind of a tryout and everybody, we saw who was ready for these sports shot conditions and these harder oil patterns.
After a couple of weeks, there was a group of bowlers who were trying to get a team together for the tournament, and they outsourced to the whole club saying, "Hey, does anyone want to go to this tournament?"
Ned and Brandon were kind of like learning a lot and taking over. So I always just kind of saw Ned as the guy who cared the most, had the most passion at the time. So he was trying his best to learn as much as possible and lead the team that way. Brandon, he was a really good bowler. He cared about the team, but he was kind of a silent leader about that. And so in that sense, it was like kind of Brandon and Ned were tag teaming it a lot.
And the competitive team really was not perfectly intact yet. And so we really were starting kind of the ball rolling, no pun intended.
It was, let's just go have fun. We're a bunch of like ragtag bowler group of guys just going to have some fun in Binghamton. And it was a learning experience for most of us because a lot of us were pretty new to the sport-like conditions and the tournament-like conditions. So.
And what was the team lacking at that point? Well, I think the big thing that the team was lacking back then, and most of the time that I was a part of the team, was funding. So all of our money that we were getting from the school was paying for us to go to the alley and practice 3 days a week. We didn't have extra money sitting around to go to tournaments, so people were having to mostly put their own money up to travel and stuff.
We're showing up in my car, and these schools are pulling up in coach buses sponsored by their school. They have the backing, they have the money, they have they're getting equipment paid for by the school.
For the first year of even me competitively bowling on the team, I didn't have my own equipment. I was using equipment that other people had given me.
How do you get everybody to realize that you don't just go to a tournament, that there is practice involved, that you have to understand the patterns beforehand, that logistically you have to set up the tournament registration, you have to set up the USBC registration?
The competitive team at that point, and pretty much exclusively, had no coach. There was no really adult there to sort of right the ship or make decisions.
Our coaches, our kind of leaders of the group, are working on their own game while they're trying to help the guys around us.
Definitely moments where I wish we had a coach or somebody to be like, hey, you're doing this mistake over and over again. Try this out. Try doing this.
I told Ned at the end of my freshman year that, we couldn't be what I called elite unless we had a coach.
There's just that aspect missing. There's that experience missing from some, I don't want to say adult, but, coach or advisor. And by not having that, I feel like no matter how hard we try, we're going to be capped, at a certain level.
We head to Iowa.
What's interesting is like no one would come to this tournament unless they think that they had a chance and that they were good enough. Like, I'm curious what their actual skill levels are because you have no idea. They could show up and be like, you know,
The worst team on the planet.
yeah, they could be like averaging 140, but they got in because everybody else said no. Or they could be averaging like 200 and they just went to 3 tournaments because they don't have the money to. And then they're like, oh, we can go to Iowa. It's only 4 hours away and it's a national championship. And then they show up and
they just destroy everybody.
They make a run.
There he is.
Hello.
Oh,
I
wow.
I have to make a second trip just to get Forsman's stuff still.
Look at them
You're on-
thighs.
This guy texted me at 5 o'clock this morning. He's like, I gotta get that pump on.
Oh my God.
He went to the gym this morning.
Dude.
So there is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. There will be 18 after he fills that spot, plus 3. So 21 in this car. They all weigh 15 pounds. $250 of bowling balls as an estimate.
Let's see, we have,
We have 20. We're gonna have 21 in the car.
so we're gonna
when
have
you put Forsman
about
in.
900 pounds of bowling.
Are you
Wait, I'm
correct?
so on crap.
50? About 300 extra pounds in bowling equipment. One.
I was doing 45 because I was thinking of just 3 ball bags.
Well, 15 times. Yeah, 300 plus 15. 315. So that'd be close to another 150 pounds, another 125 pounds of equipment in his car. My God. Hours, baby.
Wait,
No, just pull it down. Just pull it down. One more.
There were different levels coming in, and there were different visions of what a team looked like. And I think people became more of a cohesive group that sophomore year. Everybody started becoming more dedicated.
I joined a league in Cortland that put out sport shots. That was kind of my first big introduction to sport shots.
I had a hop step, sort of like Sean Maldonado, and I didn't really even realize how bad it was, but it was pretty wonky and ugly, and the guys harassed me about it, so I had to stop doing it.
I just had to work on repeating shots. Going out there, finding the line, and then repeating that line over and over and over again. And I knew that I was gonna have to put in a lot of work to get in that lineup and show them that I can be a part of the team.
We ended up trying to find more of a leadership role, a person that would focus on logistics, focus on getting the team prepared, and so we weren't stuck a week before without a hotel or without a car ride there. And so Ned really took on that role sophomore year and essentially became the coach captain, the singular leader of the group.
We voted him in. He said, that he would be captain if he had to be, and we thought if it was, he was the best option. We really thought that. And it was a hard job for him.
There's a lot of internal conflict with a student-run team where everyone has their own ideas of how things should be done. Everyone's taking it a little, like the seriousness at a different level.
There was a good amount of people, but not enough to send 2 teams, and we didn't really have the money to send 2 teams anyway, and everybody was busy. So what would happen was we would usually take, 6 or 7, maybe even sometimes we'd take 8, and that was an issue because some people would have to sit on the bench.
If that sub comes off the bench and throws 9 strikes in a row, you're not coming back in. You may be out for the rest of the weekend.
Ultimately, you wanted to be bowling because that's why we're taking the time out. And that's why no other Ivy League schools do it, is because we are busy. And so if you're going to a tournament for a whole weekend and you're going to sit on the bench, I think that's where the problems really arose.
Some people were, I think, expecting that they'd get to bowl regardless of if they went. If they went and they paid, they expected to get time even if they didn't practice very much, or even if they hadn't looked good for weeks before, or even if they were injured, or even if they were really good but that day they were bowling bad.
And with only one person to make the decisions, it was basically up to his discretion.
It definitely seemed like there was a little bit of friction between Ned and quite a few other people on the team. Definitely kind of setting up that pretty harsh dynamic of having one captain who's also your best bowler, who has to focus on their own game as well as everyone else's.
I think part of it is just like kind of inexperience on our side. Like Ned didn't know exactly what he was doing in terms of leading a team, and he wasn't getting a lot of help, and he was getting a lot of kind of flack from the guys of like, we don't think you're doing this right, we're not subbing people right, or you're not like picking the right lineups.
It's not just that he's a great bowler. It's not just that he's the only captain and doing all the logistics. It's also that he's one of our best friends at the time. So making those decisions at the alley, it then kind of cuts into your friendship and interpersonal relationship.
It's hard, even when you have a justification to why you're going to sub somebody out, and you can prove it to them, to pull a guy aside that you've been friends with for years and say, you're not cutting it right now.
I think a big problem was that Ned felt like he was on his own a lot of the times, and that everyone was kind of attacking him, when in reality he was the one kind of, I wouldn't want to say he's keeping the team together, because I think the guys would have stayed together no matter what. We're all there for the same cause, but like he was the one really, putting things together.
Overall, why do you think the team, despite the challenges, had success that year?
I think all of the guys really saw that like maybe we're not doing that well in terms of like group dynamic, but we're all improving bowling. Like LJ is making strides. He's improving dramatically. You and Logan are improving consistently. Ben is improving pretty dramatically too.
Even though we only had one captain doing stuff like that, it was this desire for that. Even if you're sat, you're like, okay, it's best for the team. Maybe I need to work on, some personal form of my game. So there's a lot of internal drive that I think we all had, and that accumulated into us doing well.
Captain Ned bowled out of his mind that year, and at one point was the second best bowler in the country. For those couple of weeks that he was bowling really well. So.
Well, that first tournament that I think we went to, and Ned shot average 235 over 6 games and was the best bowler. That was really when we realized, hey, we might have something here. This is pretty good.
First semester, doing really well. We got a few third places, a few lower ones, but for the first time we ever went to that many tournaments in Cornell history, it was phenomenal. It was really great.
We won awards, I think, for the first time. We won in Schenectady. We won High Baker Game with a 258, I believe, and High Baker Series where we shot 1951 over 10 games. And that was like the first, when they're announcing those individual awards and team awards at the end of the tournament, it was normally Cornell's time to pack up our equipment. And now we were finally sitting there waiting for our name to get called.
Maplewood Classic, we came in third in that. Maybe there was a block left or something, 4 Baker games, and the power went out, and they had to cancel the tournament, but we still got third place.
Even with all the logistical problems, me saying we can't be elite without a coach, we were doing pretty damn well, even considering all that. And so we get to the second semester, and I think we went to a couple more, and then we get a bid for the club nationals.
We were kind of ecstatic, we qualified for club nationals. I think we made it in kind of at the very end, we were, spot 24 or something, 22.
Honestly, I was surprised. I I was very pleased but surprised.
For me, I didn't even know kind of like the club nationals was a thing that we were trying to qualify for. I'm sure it was in the back of Ned's mind for a while. Same with Brandon.
Top 24 teams in the country. I mean, that's like a pretty prestigious event.
We're like, wow, we're gonna put this together. Let's get the money like together for it. Who wants to go? Who can travel? We're deciding how much it's gonna cost. We're trying to figure out if we can afford to do it.
I remember us being thrilled and excited to go, and then COVID hit.
Yeah, that sophomore year was definitely very rough because that was when COVID hit.
We were all super excited, and then COVID hits. So.
Rivers and roads, rivers and roads, rivers till I reach you. Rivers and roads, oh rivers and roads, oh rivers till I reach you. Rivers and roads, 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 rivers till I reach you.
Gassing up.
I'm so excited. To spend. That's the shot right there. To spend $4.49 again. So I zoom in.
What is that? What is going on over there?
Yeah, it's just 4 cars being dudes. Yeah, we're doing one of them.
I mean, look at that parking garage.
Okay, depending on which terminal you go to.
Does somebody want to break down what's happening here?
This is a large airport in the continental United States, where we have okay, where we have a bunch of cars. We're all trying to pick up people, but you see what they do is they only give us 15 parking spaces along the and there's 400 people trying to park because there's probably 2,000 people getting on the planes right now. And then they start construction in one of our 3 lanes. Another thing to point out is that it said our friend was gonna land at 6:46. It is 7:04, and he hasn't even gotten to baggage claim yet. You'd think if we were more accurate with our timing, we would actually be able to pick up people. That Ram is still there. It's been there for 40 minutes. Why has he not gotten kicked out?
But the parking garage is a wonder, honestly.
Oh yeah, it's very large. So I'm gonna go 6 in a 20 zone, so that I can see how long I can sit here before glorified security guard comes around with his car and kicks me out of
18 days in the wild. We've been circling the lagoon, looking for the great wild Forsman. A tall beast he is, and a fast one at that.
Why is this not being vlogged?
It is.
Oh, yes.
You get the C in there.
Jared, do you remember last lap when you were like, bro, this is the biggest parking garage I've ever seen?
Look at it.
And then you
can't even. The camera can't even pick up like the rows. All these poor souls just trying to get picked up.
Like an hour and a half?
Yeah.
No one was on it. There were like 2-3 rows around me completely empty.
Is that because people chose not to take it?
People chose not to take it. There were a lot of connecting flights that were missed apparently.
we were just kind of waiting out in terms of kind of school life, personal life. When COVID hits, I was like, oh, well, I'll just hang out here in Ithaca. I'll figure it out. We'll just wait it out, see what happens, see if the tournament ends up getting canceled. And then Cornell fully shuts down.
And we got this email saying that, COVID was shutting down the school, that all classes were going to be canceled for the next 2 weeks, and that we were basically being sent home.
Everybody has to get out, and everyone has to move out permanently. If you're in a dorm, you are packing up and leaving. So that was half of the school was basically all the freshmen and most of the sophomores were getting up and going.
And at that point, it's the tournament's not happening at all.
To put in all that time, put in all that work, and at the time we're paying our own entry fees to these tournaments. The school was not helping us. And then to say, after all that money you spent, after all that work you put yourself through to qualify for nationals, not only is it not even it's not even your choice if you get to go. You are not going.
Thing that really upset me because it was I was first getting used to the team, was finally considering getting my own bowling balls. After kind of struggling with the equipment that I did have, not quite fitting me. So it was really, kind of settling down and getting serious into bowling. And then all of a sudden it was all right, pack up midway through that semester and, go back home.
And what was school like for you at that time, in that year, after the first initial, pandemic wave?
Yeah, school was definitely interesting.
No one's vaccinated. We're worried about COVID. There's these tight restrictions that the school is putting out where you can get in trouble for these violations of COVID conduct.
Classes are all a blur. Taking class in COVID and just sitting in my room all day taking classes was rough. And maybe that's why my memory is so bad. It's just I have no idea what's going on.
We had twice a week testing and all this stuff. And most of the classes were still online. But you could go into person for some of them and they were completely masked up in this whole thing.
It opened up more opportunities because not having to physically be in person gave you more flexibility with your schedule. It only takes about 35 seconds to log on to Zoom. It takes about 35 minutes sometimes to walk to a classroom. So definitely opened up some more opportunities for me and made my schedule more open and allowed me to pursue other priorities.
Were you able to bowl at all?
It was a dark time. No.
No competitive bowling for the org. We weren't allowed to travel. Cornell didn't let us travel. They weren't really letting, I don't think they were even letting varsity teams travel that year. So we weren't going to go.
All the alleys in Ithaca were closed. I think I actually put my bowling bags in the closet for the first time. They have that dedicated spot, in my apartment now where it's just it's a straight shot to the door. Just roll it right out of the door. But they actually went in the closet with the door closed for the first time in a really long time.
About 7 months where I wasn't bowling, and I just remember being in my living room. I had this little bowling pin set with a little ball, and I was basically just throwing in my living room just because I needed it so badly. And so
the bowling club, I was the president of the bowling club at that point, and we weren't even meeting. We had to meet virtually, so we would just play Among Us.
Doing, Zoom calls. We were doing games over Zoom, watching movies over Zoom. Right when we started as VP and president, we wanted to have that community, and so it was tough to try to keep that going over Zoom.
We always had that outlet to go to the lanes and bowl together, bowl with a group of guys that we're all friends. And now, you're 1 minute you're planning your trip to club nationals, and then a couple days later you're not even bowling for the next 4 months, 5 months.
Also, I'm still not bowling. Stuff is still shut down. But the plan is to head back to school in the fall. And where were you headed back to in the fall in terms of what was the situation and how is that relevant to the bowling team?
So the year before, we because Ithaca rentals go so quickly, we decided we signed a lease in September with the bowling house, or our aptly named bowling house, Beta Chi, and basically or the 300 Club, whichever you prefer.
Had just kind of really met everyone in bowling, and I think one of the roommates had kind of fallen through on plans, and I told everyone I was interested in looking for housing, and was offered one of the rooms in a 9-person house that was mainly all the bowling guys from the competitive team, and I latched on to that.
In July, Ethan had moved in June, and then Forsman was the first one back after me in later July. And so that was its own crazy experience, because by September we were going to have 9 guys in a house, all crazy bowling teammates.
Yeah, it was definitely a different dynamic. So obviously going to tournaments, there's more downtime than we have than just bowling. We also have dinners together, early mornings, getting ready together. So, kind of getting that aspect of having to gel together, because you have to make, those living situations make sense. But then, kind of once you start living together, it's more so, how well do you all actually really get along, Because living with people, it's more than just, saying hi and, coexisting for a night or two.
We couldn't quite do whatever we wanted because of the pandemic. So we had to stay in the house a lot and kind of quarantine together as much as we could. And there was problems with that, like people feeling different levels of comfort with certain things because it was still a pandemic. No one was vaccinated.
It's interesting because we knew so little about what was going on. And we were kind of, at least from my point of view, it was just like getting thrown to the wolves. Put a mask on. Cool. Sure. I hope it works.
There's some real ramifications of if we do something wrong, if we decide something wrong and something bad happens, like someone catches COVID and then everyone gets COVID and someone gets seriously sick because we have people who are immunocompromised. Those are real tough conversations to have, really frustrating. But I think those challenges maybe brought us closer together as a group.
So, even if we couldn't go bowling, at least, we had the living situation. So there really wasn't a dull time in missing the camaraderie that we had. It was more so kind of just shifted away from the bowling alley and more into a living situation.
It was like you were doing virtual classes, so you're at the house all the time, and then when you weren't doing virtual classes, it was like you could just walk outside your room and there would always be someone there that could distract you from you doing any work, like any homework. It was great.
A lot of time was spent in the living room hanging out, in the dining room. I remember Thanksgiving, we made a huge feast for the few of us that were left who didn't go home. We would go play football and soccer and basketball.
The Nerf guns thing was really fun. Just kind of running around the house shooting Nerf guns at people.
A lot of Wii golf. No.
Really late poker nights. We were just kind of sitting around playing poker for 5 hours or something.
There was flying squirrels that got into our house, and that was a whole event. We had to take them, and I literally picked one up, and we put it in a box, and we had to take it down to the gorge to let it free and run away because it got into our house twice. It might have been 2 different ones, but
the COVID stuff was hard. The kind of tough conversations were difficult, but those fun things stand out a lot.
At the time, it felt, when I first kind of joined bowling club, I was looking for more friends. And it was really nice, being able to join the bowling house, and it really felt like I had found a family in it.
Halfway through the spring, we started to relax a lot of the restrictions on campus.
Mm-hmm.
And Helen Newman ended up, which is our bowling alley, Helen Newman ends up reopening.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like getting back on our home lanes after a year away?
Pure ecstasy. I couldn't be any happier. It was something where it's your favorite restaurant, for example, a lot of restaurants had closed down for quite a while, and then all of a sudden, they're back open for business. Kind of that same feeling of that thing that you had missed for so long that you craved, you know, finally being able to like satisfy that and go back to the alley, you know, something that you're used to and you're comfortable with, you know, and being back there practicing, you know, seeing all the people there.
It was strange, you know. I hadn't thrown a bowling ball in pretty much 9 months, and you know, we always have our peanut gallery Pat, you know, in the alley making fun of us when we throw bad shots. Always contributes to the team, does whatever he can to make our lives easier, make it easier to prep for tournaments. But you know, with all the work he does for us, he gets to get a couple of jabs in. So when I barely knew how to throw the ball when I first took it out of the bag after 9 months. You know, all that muscle memory went out the window.
Just to have the club together again, all these people that you like had spent so much time with a year ago, and not just the guys at the bowling house and the competitive team, but all these people that were part of the club. There was just so much emotion being not only back in the lanes, but back on the lanes as the bowling club. So that was really, yeah, I'll think about that for a long time, really.
And so once we got back to the alley, it was much more natural, and people were excited to come and kind of grow that community in a way that I don't think I had seen prior to COVID.
But you had some people who, like, basically their junior year, they had club nationals pulled from under their feet, and then they never got back out to compete for the team, for the school.
Right.
What do you think that was like for those graduates? You know?
Oh, I mean, it was incredibly hard.
You know, you have people like Ned and Ed who are never going to bowl again. You know, luckily we got Brandon and Luke Forsman back for that, either half a year or 1 year. But yeah, I think it sucked. It sucked.
And like, it sucks because we worked so hard for it, and everyone was so much better. And it was like, for us, it was like kind of, it felt like a last chance for a lot of the guys. And it ended up being a last chance for a lot of the guys, which really sucked.
We fought, and we didn't get along all the time, and we all thought we were right about how things should have been done, but, you know, we still all, like, were friends, and we still, like, cared about the sport, and we cared about the team, and we loved bowling. And so to have it ripped away from you, I feel bad, you know, that they didn't get the opportunity.
There was really nothing that we could do to help them out in any way, to, you know, allow them to have that last year. So yeah, I mean, it was just tough. Like, it was easy to be their friend and be supportive, but it was kind of a non-discussion topic. We didn't really talk about what could have been, because it was kind of pointless and, you know, sad. So yeah.
This is a place where I don't feel alone. This is a place where I feel at home.
turning back. She hid around corners and she hid under beds. She killed it with kisses, and from it she fled. With every bubble she sank with a drink and washed it away down the kitchen sink. The dog days are over, the dog days are done. The horses are coming, so you better run. Run fast for your mother, run fast for your father, run for your children, for your sisters and brothers. Leave all your love and your longing behind. You can't carry it with you if you want to survive. The dog days are over, the dog days are done. Can you hear the horses? 'Cause here they come.
Once we opened Helen Newman back up and we're really getting the club kind of back into full swing, one of the first things we started doing again was, having a competitive team meet again and be like, how are we going to run next year? Like, what do we want? What were some of the things that didn't work out in the past? What were some things that did work out in the past? And then, what are the realistic possibilities that we have?
You had me, Logan, you, Luke James. We had Luke Forsman because he stayed for a master's program, and we had Brandon who needed a few extra credits. So I think for the most part, we had the same group of guys plus a couple of newer people, a couple of young people that were starting up.
Because of the success we had had that second year before the pandemic, they gave us this extra money. So we were able to actually go to tournaments and not have to, it was coming from the school. And it was like $2,500 a semester, but it was enough that we could go to these tournaments and not have to spend out of our pockets, which was a big deal at that point.
I remember kind of talking about, we can go to these tournaments and really lining up, that one's a little too far away. We'd have to kind of go to 2 tournaments in this one weekend. So I think everyone was super excited to get to go back to tournaments and kind of compete again.
We had come to a consensus that we didn't want one person leading anymore, only because there was too much of a logistical problem of trying to figure out the car situation, the hotels. We almost needed 2 people to get all that settled. In addition, it would allow for 2 people to discuss any decisions being made about who was getting pulled, when they were getting pulled, and practice and all these things.
Both captains were voted on, and then we actually voted on how we wanted the team run by those 2 captains. And it ended up being Logan and myself that were voted by you guys to take over. Our responsibility was to essentially make the decisions no one else wanted to make and try and do it in the nicest way possible and give our team the best chance at doing what we, achieving our goals. And I think the goal to make nationals was a pretty cool goal to set.
My expectation was really the varsity squad is focused on being competitive with six guys on the roster, and whoever was doing the best is going to be in. By only having one person on the bench, we would very rarely have a situation where people were upset by being on the bench, because somebody would either be not bowling great and will pull, or they're not bowling great and they kind of deserve to be on the bench for that period of time, but they knew they were the first person in if they got off the bench. So it eased some of that stress.
And I think that went slightly better. I think still that people were upset about sitting, and I definitely think that there was times where there were bad calls being made, by Logan and Ben. Just like there was bad calls being made by Ned.
There's always going to be that clash of, you know, you have players making decisions for other players, and dictating who gets to bowl. And that's something that, you know, is always going to be a struggle until we have a coach or something like that, you know, who's going to have that kind of authoritarian, you know, decision on who gets to do what and is coming from a more neutral position.
What was sort of your expectations going into the semester in the fall?
Yeah, my expectations were pretty high. You know, not reaching our senior year, even though we kind of had a year off of not being able to bowl together, I know that each of us at least was still bowling, working on our game. So I had some pretty high expectations for us in succeeding and doing well together.
I think that we looked around and said, you know, yeah, we're a year short than where we would have been in terms of experience, but we were just happy to go out there. I didn't have a ton of expectations. I just wanted to bowl as best as I possibly could for the team and for the school.
And the team was way improved from what our sophomore year was. And even losing Ned and Ed, we still had a really great foundation.
I think the team as a whole really kind of bought in. And everyone was improving a lot. And I mean, I kind of had worked with or talked with Logan a lot throughout like the past 4 years about like, and seeing his improvement. It might look subtle, but he's gotten so much better and so consistent.
And talk about Allentown and why Allentown would have been important for our team.
Yeah, so it was the very first Tier 1, I believe, that we had ever gone to. At least for me, it was the first Tier 1 tournament I had ever gone to. You know, we're bowling against the best teams across the nation.
The Tier 1s, I had to reach out to a new person who is like the head of all national USBC collegiate tournaments and things like that. So we were kind of rising up in terms of who we were talking to. It was during the winter break. And so in order to actually get there, we had to organize a couple of cars to get there. We had to figure out the hotel situation, and we had to make sure we had enough of a team that wasn't away on vacation to actually attend it.
Driving to Pennsylvania over winter break to go to Tier 1 events, you know, people leaving their families right around Christmas time to go to these events, because if we don't do it now, we're not going to bowl in Tier 1s this year because the other Tier 1s are during our semester when we can't go.
4 days of bowling, tons of like schools were there, lots of really big schools. There was varsity and club teams, and it was awesome. And we had never experienced burn like that ever. And we struggled, especially by the end of the tournament. The first tournament we actually didn't do too bad in.
And that second tournament in Allentown, you know, I bowled like a 110, I think, you know, and having averaged like, I think somewhere like 160 to 180 for most of that tournament. And then, you know, towards the end, we were all bowling. Like, I think the best score in that last game was like a 130.
You know, we were in one tournament completely outclassed, just did not move at the same time as everybody else, didn't catch on to the changes of the conditions. And I think it was a wake-up call, you know, because that was the first time we ever competed in Tier 1 events. And now we're realizing that you want to come to these events, even if you have a great group of 5 or 6 guys, it's still not going to be easy.
We had never bowled 3 days in a row. It was right after Christmas. This isn't, we weren't those guys, truthfully. We just weren't. We loved bowling. We literally loved bowling. We loved competing. We wanted to be the best that we could, but we weren't prepared.
And we run into sometimes just like a lull of tough games in a row, because so many people can get lost, and if the transition moves and you're not keeping up with it, it can get rough.
It was something that we didn't really let bog down our mentality. We didn't kill ourselves and then go into the next day hating, you know, everything that we're doing. It was something that we were like, okay, you know, what were all these other teams doing that had such great success that we weren't doing? And it was moving, you know, left and getting it out much earlier in the game. And that was something that we, you know, recognized, knew that we had to fix. And then the second day during Baker's, you know, we went through and we moved left, you know, and did much better that second day, which is something that I'm really proud of us doing.
You want to talk about how Schenectady went, what that was like, thinking that it might be...
Schenectady always goes fairly well for us. We have from home support, they always come out to Schenectady and cheer us on.
This was our last tournament. It was going to be 2 tournaments over 2 days and a weekend, and it was going to be the end of this journey. We had spent 4 years together. We were friends. We had gone through a pandemic together.
I had kind of 2 goals from the team. Was one, and it was only the varsity squad, so I wanted one to be fully trying our hardest, just going out there and giving it our all, because why not, right? And the other was, let's have fun. I want us to enjoy our last tournament. I don't want people worried about, how they're doing or whatever. It's your last chance to bowl in college. So let's just go out there and enjoy it.
I tried not to think too much about, it's our, last possible game, last possible frame that I'm throwing. And more so just kind of try to keep my head down and just think of it as, I'm still bowling just a regular tournament and focus on my game, the team's game, and, just us succeeding.
We were right middle of the pack, and I think we made a late surge in that last tournament on Sunday. And we were bowling pretty well in Baker. We always have bowled well in Baker.
And I remember the last game, right, and of our Baker block. And, we started taking videos of everyone's last shots. And everybody strikes for 6 in a row.
I walked up there, struck. And then Forsman went up there, struck. LJ went up there, struck. Ben strikes. And then Logan strikes out. And it's just crazy. I don't know. It felt like that was a perfect thing to end on. To be okay, we're because of the amount of tournaments we went to, we're not going to nationals. This was the last time we were going to have fun, and it all came together.
And so it was definitely an experience of, being sad that it could be the last time that, we're still doing tournaments together, but, reflecting on, my journey from my sophomore year to where I was then, being really happy with the growth that I had and knowing that I'm going to continue bowling even after graduation.
We ended up in 4th place out of 10 teams, which is a very good finish in a larger Tier 2 tournament like that. And I think that really is what locked up nationals.
I started looking online and saying, hey, a lot of these teams are declining. We're starting to see a lot of these teams declining, and some of them are on the West Coast. And I remember saying to Ben and Logan, I think calling them and saying, hey, we might get offered to go. We should kind of start to consider this.
I get an email weeks after that tournament, and it says, you're invited to Club Nationals. Respond to this email if you're interested in attending.
Finally got the news that other teams were dropping out. And, we had finally been bumped into the top 25 for nationals.
Deciding, it's on spring break. Can people get back to Ithaca? Someone's in California.
I had booked tickets, I was going to be in California from the Saturday at the beginning of spring break to the Tuesday after spring break.
I literally tell Ben, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go. That's crazy, to go all the way to Iowa.
But if we don't have 5, then we don't go. Everyone has to be in. We had our Cinderella ending already. And we were asking, hey, let's give that up and go for the big one.
I don't think there was a single guy that was like, all right, like I'm kind of not interested in bowling anymore. We were all still focusing on our individual game and improving, Like I didn't really start working on flattening my hand out and increasing my ball speed until after that last tournament. So it was definitely something, that we never kind of took the days off of like, all right, we're done, whatever. We all still had that like desire to do to improve and, be the best that we could be at bowling.
Having this kind of, last chance of hanging out with everyone and competing was something that I really wanted to go to. So I kind of shifted my whole trip forward, figured out a flight to get to Chicago to get picked up.
I was like, we have to go because we didn't go 2 years ago and we made it. So let's try it out and compete against, again, just like with the tier ones, some of the best teams in the country.
And what are you hoping to get out of this club national championship?
I'm really hoping that I can see the improvements that I'd worked on since the last tournament. I think that we can be a top 10 club team. And so I want to see us perform that well.
It's going to be difficult. There's really good teams there. There's really good bowlers tomorrow. But I think we have a shot. I think, we put 5 pretty good bowling games and bowling styles together. We can have a pretty unstoppable team.
Club Nationals was very different from any other ones because it was all Baker. So everybody got a couple of frames in the game. And essentially, we were competing head-to-head against the teams in the tournament.
Every team around us is cheering, but it's amplified. Every single team is really hyped, really excited, cheering a lot, and everyone around us is a competitor.
There was even more passion and drive to win any given game because you saw your opponent. You were competing head-to-head.
The head-to-head was stressful. We're bowling against teams who we can beat, but we were just barely not beating. And that kind of got to us, I think.
We just needed to bowl consistently good, and we would drop the ball.
There were a number of head-to-head blocks that we were really in them, and we lose by a tiny bit against the best team in the nation.
There was games where it was really close. We bowled good enough that, if I had just been a little bit better, if I had just come through for the team.
We never really were giving up any pins throughout the whole tournament. It was really more better teams are gonna win.
You're graduating like the rest of the team. What are your plans after graduation?
So I just recently got a job up in Boston. I'm working at an urban planning consulting firm. So I'm very excited to kind of start anew up there.
Yeah, so after graduation, I'm moving out to Santa Barbara, where my job is located. Planning to spend at least a few years at this company. I really like it. It's exactly the job that I want.
After graduation, I'm going to move to Syracuse and start a job at a utilities company.
I got a job out in Santa Clara, California, working for Intel.
Finally gonna get to go home. Didn't have a lot of opportunities the last couple of years because of
the field I work in while I'm up here, kind of catch up on all the time that I missed in the last 4 years, and then hopefully go to med school.
And what do you think bowling is going to look like for you moving forward?
Yeah, that's something that I'm actually not really, sure of. I don't really know how leagues and alleys are run in the West Coast. But it's definitely something that, I know for a fact I'm going to try to join, whatever league that I can.
Of course, I've been looking for alleys around the Boston area, and there are not as many as I expected. It's definitely up in the air, but I'm working toward finding leagues that are close enough for me to get to, and tournaments that I can also get to.
I'll definitely kind of still bowl and go to the alley every once in a while. Still deciding if I want to do a league or not. I don't know, the house shot leagues maybe not as appealing. I think sweat shot is more challenging, more fun.
Yeah, I already started bowling in tournaments, like singles tournaments on Long Island where I'm from, and that's just going to continue. Just going to bowl in as many as I can, and I'm joining a league with a group of guys that I'm friends with back home, and just have fun with the sport now.
Do you have any favorite memories looking back of being on the competitive team?
I think it's really hard to choose a favorite memory. I think every tournament I've been to, I've always had such a good time, whether I'm bowling well or not. Obviously there are times where I get in my own head if I'm not performing the way that I want to, but having the guys there to kind of lift me up and just kind of knowing that I have that support behind me, has made every tournament really memorable.
Well, yeah, I closed your hand in a car door. I was so nervous. It was like the first tournament of the year, and you were bowling pretty well, and I slammed the door on your fingers. I was like, oh no, I just took him out of action. I was like, this is the way to get off the bench. I just gotta close Jared's hand in the door.
Spending hours in the car and then splitting hotel rooms and just hanging out and having to basically live together for 4 or 5 days in Allentown, Pennsylvania. These are things that's I won't forget, those types of experiences that weren't on the lanes.
The conversations that I had outside of the tournaments. So a lot of them with Ned where kind of we talked about bowling, but also just kind of life and figuring out what's important. And yeah, I think retrospectively, all of those conversations really still stick with me.
What have you learned being on this team and going on this journey as a Cornell bowler and a collegiate bowler?
I think a lot of it is kind of being more at touch with your own challenges. I think that a lot of the times it's easy to point out what other people are doing wrong and why you should, be in, especially, having ridden the bench for a while. But I think it takes a more, talent to have to, reflect and think, how can I be better? What can I do? What can I do better for the team? What can I do better for my own game? So I think a lot of it is, making sure that you can offer something to the team.
We went from having very little resources, extra resources and stuff, to do these things, and we worked hard, we practiced, we did it the right way, we got more funding, we got experience, and most of all, we had a really good time. We became close friends, and if you care about something, then do it and work hard on it, practice, and it'll be worth it.
And it also proves that hard work is not only necessary in the main path of life to get through your education and get a job. Obviously that's important, and everyone strives for that. All these guys, everyone in this house this weekend, we're getting prepared to move on to the professional part of our lives. And at the same time, it shows that you can put effort into extracurricular activities as well, and do a similar thing in that aspect of your life.
Don't view somebody in one setting the same way you view them in another, because in bowling it could be pretty contentious, in tournaments, but outside of bowling, I've never been closer with anyone in my life than the team. So it's important to recognize that.
What has the bowling team, the competitive team, meant to you over the last 4 years or the last 3 years?
It's definitely been, kind of the core of my my college experience. It was something that, first entering college, had no idea bowling really even existed. Took the PE class for fun, saw some improvement in that, kind of getting advice from the people working there, and then joining the team, kind of developing, that drive to want to do better in a sport that I knew nothing about, and really working and putting in time to understand something that I, had no idea even existed.
Being a part of this team has allowed me to, contribute in many ways, either being on the e-board for the club or being the co-captain with Logan this year. I've been able to see it go from what it was when I first came to Cornell to what it is today, and the improvement that I see makes me proud as a person just to even be a part of it, let alone be a leader in the organization.
Just being able to know that I can go to the alley on Tuesday and I'll see Jared, I'll see Logan, I'll see Ned, I'll see Ben, I'll see LJ, and I'll be able to hang out with everyone. I'll see Brandon, and even before we all lived together, that was a constant. I would be able to hang out with everyone and still have fun.
I'm not sure what I would have done without bowling. There was times where it was really challenging to be at school, and I was able to lean on bowling and be at Helen Newman, and that was a safe place for me to be, a healthy place for me to be. And the people, that were there, that was the difference.
The big thing for me this team has brought is the friendship. I think that there are quite a few struggles after my freshman year with friend groups that I think quite a few people kind of go through, but kind of being able to bounce back from that and have this huge group of guys and girls and kind of that whole club, being able to expand and grow, it's something that it has made me so happy.
And I think just being able to be a part of this organization and being, welcomed wholeheartedly from the beginning, and the amount of knowledge that was given to me by people who have, have moved on to other aspects of their life, and the people that are still here, and the friendship has just the overall idea of the team itself is a memory.
A close, tight-knit group, like a family, that is able to live in a same house and not kill each other, even though we never go out. And, even without bowling, we're still great friends and we're still always together. And that idea of Beta Chi being kind of the center point of the bowling team, I think is really a nice image of what we are as a group.
Coming into college and just being a quiet person, I was really worried about, making friends. And outside of the competitive team, outside of competing, and really going to tournaments and improving at bowling, I think the group of guys that we had and kind of transitioned throughout the years, for me, has been a consistent. I always have bowling to go to. I always have my group of guys every Tuesday, Thursday to go hang out with. And so that is something that I'm really appreciative of, and really will look back with fondness.
I have the option to go bowling whenever I want, but I don't have the option to see my friends. And that's tough, New city, new life, and if they were here and they were playing tennis instead, I probably would be playing tennis with them. But that's not what happened. We were friends and we were bowlers.
I wish somebody would have told me, babe, someday these will be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these reckless nights you won't regret. Someday soon your whole life's gonna change. You'll miss the magic of these good old days.
I was thinking about the band, I was thinking about the fans. We were underground, loading merch in that 12-passenger van, in a small club in Minnesota, and the snow outside of First Ave. I just wanted my name and a star. Now look at where we at, still growing up. still growing up. I would lay in my bed and dream about what I've become. Couldn't wait to get older, couldn't wait to be some. Now that I'm here, wishing I was still young. Those good old days.
I wish somebody would've told me, babe, that someday these would be the good old days. All the love you won't forget, and all these
Out in one game, we're out in 2 games.
Who's in bracket round 1?
First team exit.
You miss the magic of the good old days.
Wish I didn't think I had the answers. Wish I didn't drink all of that glass first. Wish I made it to homecoming. Got up the courage to ask her. Wish I would've gotten out of my shell. Wish I put the bottle back on that shelf. Wish I wouldn't have worried about what other people thought and felt comfortable with myself. Rooftop open and the stars above. Moment frozen, sneaking out and falling in love. Me, you, and that futon. We just begun.
I wanted to quickly do some shout outs. First off, big thank you to Pat, Mel, and Bill at Helen Newman Lanes for helping us all those years we were bowling there. Wanted to shout out and give a big thank you to all the friends and families who have supported us on and off the lanes while we were bowling in college, as well as before and after. And just want to thank the Cornell Bowling Club and the team for everything. So, thank you.
Maybe we're still young. Maybe you always look back and think it was better than it was.
I'm excited to see how it comes out. I think I'm going to be laughing at myself a lot, but that's okay.
Thinking about the past while missing out on now. We've come so far.
You're kind of getting in the way of the product placement, actually.
We're getting to the sentimental part of this. And we got the close-ups going, the tears flowing.
Those good old days.
You don't know what you got till it goes, till it's gone.